Welcome everyone to Voices of Terminus show number 32. I'm joined today with my usual host, Delinzia. Say hi, Delinzia.
Hey guys, what's going on out there in
Say
Twitchland?
hi, Lex.
Hello.
Say hello, Michael Kodiak.
Hey, how's it going?
There you go. Oops, I was
Kodiak.
distracted by the freaking Skype stuff. And we have with us today a special guest, Rezum. Say hello, Rezum.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
You're welcome, mate. So as you can see, guys, today's show is the Warrior. And I'm going to read off the description real quick about the Warrior, go into the questions, and then we're going to go over to something else that Dal's going to cover real quick. The Warrior seemingly defies limits of physical strength, ability, and resilience. However, not content with fortitude alone, he also refines his mind, becoming a master strategist in battle. And questions to get us into the whole discussion today are AoE, single taunt abilities, dual wield or sword and shield or both, purely physical skill based, healing capabilities if any, the warrior's armor and warrior's speciality. And we're going to bring up a screenshot, so go for it, Dan.
Alright everybody, so I think it was last week, VOT, I showed you a photo from VR, which was the training area, and a couple of people are saying, hey, it looks too small, you know, so guess what? Here's the other side of that training area. So this is on the other side of the wall, apparently, that we didn't get to see from the first photo. So that gives you an idea what the training area looks like, and you can really, sink your teeth into that one. So it looks pretty neat, really cool, and can't wait to see a little bit more. So just so you know, that training area is big.
And moving back into our topic for today, the Warrior. So before we get into the questions, guys, give me your basic thoughts of what you think about the description of the Warrior and what you picture from that, how you would see it. And we'll start off with our guest, Rezum. Give us your thoughts on the description of the Warrior and what you think that would incline how he would be.
One thing that I really liked that they mentioned was the physical strength aspect. All of his skills are going to be physical based instead of spell based like your Dire Lord or Paladin. And that's one thing that I'm looking forward to. And then also a master strategist in battle.
Cool. Kodiak?
I just think meat shield.
Okay. Coming from a shaman, guys. Lex, give us your take.
Well, to me, the warrior screams the epitome of physical prowess. Of course, he's got to be a meat shield. He's got to be a hard hitter. He's got to be able to take a hard hit. So there it comes into the specs. I love the whole strategist in the description because that makes me feel like they're actually going to have useful buffs, either short duration or long, either way, but something that can add a little bit of utility to the group.
Awesome. Cool. Down?
I have to say the Warriors were also great with the enemy aggro, trying to bring the attention to the enemy on themselves to try to keep it off the rest of the members of the group, so that way the other members of the group can perform their abilities and cast spells and etc. So the Warrior, he had to take the brunt of the abuse and kind of draw the attention of the enemy.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
So.
For me, because I was speaking to the guys before we went live and everything, to get an understanding of the Warrior from EverQuest. So basically, for me, I kind of see personally, would like to see the Warrior be something similar to what the Guardian was in EverQuest 2, the brute force, physical strength, and he had a lot of HP, and all his spells were almost physical based and everything. So I'm kind of getting the twist of that as well. We'll have to basically see where they go. Predicting, well, basing it off of what we've seen so far, I'm guessing the Warrior is going to be something of a mix between EverQuest and Vanguard, and if they can add a hint of touch of what a Guardian was in EQ2, that would be cool as well. So let's start off with the first question, because this is always interesting, especially when it comes to Warriors. To give you some back checks, or fact checks from my experiences in EverQuest 2, the Warrior would be the equivalent of a Guardian. And the Guardian sucked at AoE taunt abilities. he would suck at that. He could, he had a
Well-
powerful single taunt abilities, but he would not be able to handle the a group encounter. So AoE and single taunt abilities is here the question, guys. And with that, I'd like to know what you think. Should the warrior have something similar, that he should only be restricted to one kind of taunt ability, either single or AoE, or should they add the option of having a bit of AoE taunt ability to it? Who wants to start off?
I'll go ahead and start off.
All right, thanks, Lex.
Because I'm of the train of thought that every tank should be able to do the same thing, but in a different way. I would love to see Dire Lords with threat over time. I would love to see Paladins with large, almost burst threat. I think Warriors really should have the bulk of the AE threat, because they have been crapped on for so long. I mean, they're always stuck with single target taunts that you're constantly swapping targets. They've always had a hard time. It doesn't matter if they say, well, it's AE, but it's a moderate amount of threat. That's fine. I'm cool with that. Give them something where it's like, I am king of this arena, because they don't have magic in the traditional sense of like a Dire Lord or a Paladin. But they're supposed to be masters of weapons. So to me, a warrior would be the only thing in the game that actually, do like a storm of blades everywhere. So he's going to hit everybody. That's just my thought.
Okay. So, go on, Dan.
To kind of go on with that, like Lex is saying, I wouldn't say maybe a spell ability, but looking at what Lex is saying, I kind of agree too, because warriors always had to kind of switch back and forth between targets, or you always had to get kind of an off-tank guy too. But to kind of help maybe maintain some aggro, maybe give them like a shout or a shout taunt to kind of grab the, a little, it's like a small AE maybe perhaps that'll grab maybe two or three mobs' attention to kind of draw them into the warrior first. But however, there is the chance to say that one of the group members actually aggroes, a mob off the warrior. So it gives the warrior the chance to kind of grab them in, and then the group can deal with them in a sense. So I can kind of see where Lex is going with that, and that would be kind of a cool, different, twist to the warrior.
Kodiak, your thought?
Same thing. Giving him some type of ability, whether it be like a battle chant or a shout or something, where they could, basically either stun him, stun everybody for a second, so that way, the attention goes on him or something of that nature. But I'd say both. I think all three tank classes should have both abilities, just in different ways.
And we'll get the insight from Rezum, who actually, I think he played a warrior in EverQuest and is planning on playing one in Pantheon. So what's your take on this, Rezum? How do you see it?
I really enjoyed the tank being a snap taunt tank. He's the main of the mitigation. And as far as AoE goes, I kind of liked playing my computer like it was a piano. That I had to go from mob to mob to mob, doing snap taunts instead of doing a AoE taunt that just brought everybody to me. Because then I felt just overpowered as a warrior tank. So I say keep it single target for the warrior.
Okay. Yeah, because that was kind of the similar thing with EverQuest 2. The Guardian was, just so powerful with mitigation and hit points, and his single taunt was, the ultimate power as a single taunt. And he did suck in, the AoE abilities, but I'm kind of leaning towards, like the other guys have said, adding some kind of twist, like a very short duration spell that's for a few seconds, where he can maybe grab a group of some sort, but not, and make it very limited, obviously, as well. So I'm kind of on the boat with the other guys, but I can see your point as well, because the Guardian would be overpowered, or the warrior would be OP as a tank in that perspective when it comes to taunting. So we'll move on to the second question. And actually, let's go and ask chat. Let's go and quickly view chat and see what they say. So, let's have a look. Anybody have anything that was relating to... So, a shout insult to get the mob's attention from Dark Soul and Mega. Auxilian Oman, Snap Taunt. I've never heard that term for a long time. I haven't heard that term for a long time. Yeah, so we'll see if the chat picks up on this further on, but we'll move on to the second question. So, dual wield, sword and shield, or both? The reason I'm bringing this up is because, from my understanding, what I was told in EverQuest, the warrior could dual wield, but the guardian in EverQuest 2 was strictly sword and shield. Should they have the option of maybe having the warrior be able to handle both? I mean, we've seen the stream, and Aradun, I think he played the warrior, and he had a sword and shield in his hand, didn't he?
Yeah, but I was gonna say, what if the weapon you wore dictated the AOE taunting? So if you had dual wield or two-hander, because of course you could hit more mobs that you could AOE, versus if you have a sword and a shield, now you're on single target.
Yeah, I can see in the chat too, and this is quite an interesting topic, because in D&D, the Dungeons and Dragons games, you know, the warrior was a master of all weapons, so he could handle almost anything. For Pantheon, I'd probably say I'd like to see him be able to do both, sword and shield, two-handers. He's basically the master of kind of all the weapons, but he's a jack of all trades, but not a master of them all completely, unless he decides to spec in a certain area. So I'd have to say give him a jack of all trades, because he's a warrior. He's learned through his life, you know, his experiences, that, you know, to use different types of weapons, and then obviously in his experiences he might be able to specialize in a particular weapon set. You know, using a sword and shield that gives him some sort of maybe a bash taunt perhaps, or, you know, he's got the ability to proc a two-handed sword that will give him that taunt we were talking about. You know, bringing a couple extra mobs in for a short duration. So I could see that where he is actually, you know, kind of a master of all weapons in a sense. To my take.
Lex?
Well, I'm going to approach this one as, what would it take for me to go to a warrior? Instead of your traditional stances, well, first off, I'll say I want both, but here's why. I would like to remove the traditional idea of stances from like EverQuest 2, and say whatever weapon set you have on determines like maybe a hidden stance. So you put on a sword and shield, you just swapped into a defensive posture. You got dual wield or a two-hander, maybe it's an offensive, you know, it depends.
Just passive.
Right, yeah, just a passive stance to that. But if we take a look at EverQuest 2 and EverQuest, if you have a sword and shield on, I would love for your taunt abilities to be more passive. Because the Guardian was a lot of stuff where if they hit you, it has a chance to taunt them for free. You know, it was great. Just getting them on you was the hard part with the Guardian. Whereas if you have dual wield, maybe you can go into an offensive style tank where it's more like the Berserker for EverQuest 2, where when you hit them, there's a chance for a free taunt or something of that nature. And that way you get a ton of flavor. He's still got the same rolls. And then if you want to damage, just whip out that two-hander and start lopping heads.
All right, cool. Rezum?
I'm going to definitely say he should have both. Both sword and board and dual wield. But I think the dual wield should be accessible, say, at level 20. So the player first gets to learn how to tank, and then at secondary, they can learn how to do some damage. Because I think in most games, the warrior has had a real hard time finding himself able to do anything besides tanking. And with 6 people in a group like Pantheon has the capabilities of doing, a warrior can do some damage and be an off tank as well as a main tank in other groups.
Yeah, well, you know, that's how I'm looking at it as well. I'm definitely for both, and since they've, you know, gone with the warrior instead of a guardian or berserker, etc., as a class, I see it like Dow does. You know, him being a warrior, he would obviously have the skill set to use a two-handed weapon or dual wield 2 swords, or, you know, use a sword and shield and everything, but not be the absolute specialist unless he goes in a certain direction. And you're absolutely right on your take on how warriors, or let's call them guardians, have had it. It's been really hard. I used to run a guardian in EverQuest 2, and when they started to change in the aspect of DPS being all that you need to do to handle yourself, it was very hard for me to actually learn how to play the Guardian as a DPS kind of tank to deal out damage, because I was so used to single taunting, having a high mitigation, high HP, and just keeping all the monsters on me, and then it all changed. So it has been very hard for them. So I kind of like the idea as well where you're going, saying that basically you start off first with, the sword and the shield to learn how to, tank, and then once you reach a higher level, you can then learn the next, tier or the next skill, being dual wield or whatever. So that's kind of cool there.
And one thing also, it also opens up the warrior to be the tank of versatility. I mean, he can use all types of weapons. So if you're going up against the skeletons, like y'all had talked about in past shows, he can go dual-wield mace, which is something the Shadow Knight and the Paladin can't do. So it's like his niche in the game. It's what makes the warrior different than the Dire Lord or the Paladin, which is something that I'm really looking forward to in Pantheon. Because about 1% of warriors actually get to do something in raids, and it's tank the main boss, and that's it. That's all he can do. And it's like, why stop him there? There's so much possibility for his class.
It's great that you brought this up with the maces, because I want to actually touch on that and add this actually into this question, because as we know, sword and shield is what they use, or great sword or whatever, two-handed great sword, and you brought up the option of maybe giving him maces. So where would you see the weapon abilities for a warrior? What kind of weapons would he be able to manage? Would it just be strictly swords or maces, staffs, etc.? Let's get your take on this, guys, because it's definitely an interesting thought process. I don't know how it was in EverQuest, so give us your thoughts there, guys.
I'll start this one. I think the warrior should be able to dual wield. However, I don't think they should be able to dual wield daggers, and my reasoning behind that is the rogue was a dual wielder of daggers. So that's completely something separate to kind of break the class. I see the warrior, he's not going to play with petty daggers and plate armor. I mean, that's kind of crazy. The dagger is supposed to be lightweight for a thief. They're a rogue. They're very lightweight, so they're easy to hide, tuck. They're small weapons. A thief is designed to sneak around and be really quiet, and sneak in and do the backstab. While a warrior is kind of clanky, he's loud, he's kind of clumsy because he's got all that plate armor on. So, but he's also got the strength. See, a rogue is supposed to be not really strength. It's a light, nimble person with a lot of agility, but not necessarily strength. So the warrior can handle, dual wield, two long swords, or maybe if he's really cool, wield two-handed swords. That'd be awesome. But maybe that's getting to the sword of 1,000 truths. But it comes down to the warrior should be able to dual wield, but to keep it from killing the idea of the rogue being a dual wielder, don't let him dual wield daggers. That'd be kind of crazy, because that's not really a warrior. Those are petty to a warrior. A warrior's more of a bigger, heavier weapons, in that sense. But he can wield a dagger. I wouldn't limit him to where he can't wield a dagger. He could wield a dagger and a shield, but that'd be kind of crazy and weird. But hey,
what about taking away a bow from a warrior and maybe giving them where they could pick up a rock and just throw it at a mob for pulling?
That too, bro. I'd throw rocks too.
I think that was the first skill a warrior could get in EverQuest was rock throw.
Awesome.
Rather than daggers or Chinese stars or whatever. You wouldn't even need to carry those on you because you could just pick up any random rock and throw it at a mob.
So Dal, what weapons would you see? You mentioned daggers and swords. I'm actually thinking about maces and malices and stuff like that. So
I think ultimately he should be able to wield anything. The only thing I don't think he should be able to dual wield is the daggers, because that takes away from the whole mystique of the rogue or the assassin type class, you want to say. But I say the warrior should be able to wield any weapon in a game, because he's a martial. He kind of martial weapons. I wouldn't say he could say if they bring the monk in, he can dual wield staffs or anything crazy like that. Limit him on that, because a warrior, like I said, a warrior's not gonna play with a bamboo stick. Yeah. He's about charging in battle and taking the brunt. So you're not gonna see a warrior going around with a monk stick, okay? So he'll be limited on things like that. But ultimately, your basic heart, iron core, steel, whatever, your big swords, stuff like that, your bows, your crossbows, he should be able to use. He might not get the special abilities, perhaps, say, of a rogue could use, because a rogue has been stealthy, and so. But yeah, they should be able to use everything.
Awesome. Lex, let's get you in there.
Well, I kind of on the same vote partially as Dal. I do believe that warriors feel to carry anything because a warrior can pick up a staff and use it as a big beat stick. You know, he could pick up a knife and still stab people. But it comes down to the design of and itemization to make it something more attractive to the warrior versus a rogue. Maybe a rogue requires a high amount of agility on weapons in order to get a damage bonus where the warrior does not. So obviously he's going to not go for the dagger because the sword has more strength and stamina. So that's just catered to him, and so he's steering towards it. He has the option to use that dagger, yes, but it's almost like a false decision where he's making the choice to use what's right for him, even though if you compare the two, there's really no decision.
Yeah.
But I mean, can a warrior dual wield knives? Well, yeah, I could pick up 2 knives right now. I'm not a warrior. No, I can pick up 2 knives. I can pick up a big stick and beat people. I can pick up a sword. Don't mean I can use it well.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I want to use it.
Kodiak?
Well, I just think that when it comes to the weapon choice, because like I said, the crushing with the bone and the blades with the skin, and the different variations that they're going to be implementing, that I think that they need to be able to not be limited as far as that's concerned. But I do think that what Lexer said as far as having more different bonuses for maybe higher agility because of a ranger or a rogue or somebody's going to have a higher agility or dexterity or whatever, that they get some kind of a bonus. Same with the bows. When it comes to rangers, I think rangers should be more efficient with a bow than a warrior, even if they can use it just to pull them off or whatever. So, but the ranger, of course, can do way more damage with the bow.
So before I add this on to Rezum, I'm going to finish off first, and then we'll go over to you, Rezum. So I agree to you guys all to some point. The only point that I kind of disagree on is the daggers, and this is why. If we look at a warrior being martial and everything, and being able to master or use most of the weapons, the way I see the warrior using a dagger would be in self-defense only, as a last resort kind of thing. So basically, it would be before the last blow hit, or before he loses his weapon or whatever, he would grab the dagger and then just stab the guy in the neck and then be done with it. That's how I see, or where I would see a warrior ever using a dagger. That's my take on it. So I'm kind of on the edge there. Rezum, what about you, mate?
I actually think that Lex stole the words right out of my mouth. That he can use anything, but he would want to choose the sword over the dagger, because the dagger is not going to benefit him quite as much. The rogue wants to use it because he's worried about speed of damage and the critical of damage. So the more often he's attacking, more chances he has of critical hits. Warrior doesn't worry about that, so he's going to choose the axe or the sword or the mace time and time again.
Yeah, awesome. So we're going to the third question, which has basically been answered already in the description. Purely physical skill based, basically meaning if you've played EverQuest or EverQuest 2, etc., and played any other MMO out there, and you've come across a warrior or a guardian, they were purely physical based. Skilled means everything that they wore was pushed to strengthen their physical ability, resist against damage, etc. Their damage output was purely physical, so they were dealing out physical damage instead of any kind of magical damage like a paladin with arcane damage, or a dire lord with poison, etc. So it's kind of explained that it's going to be defines limits of physical strength, seemingly defies limits of physical strength. Is going to be very physical, and his abilities and resilience will be somewhat content though with fortitude alone. So let's get some thoughts going for the physical skill based on the warrior. Lex, you're nodding your head there, so I'll let you kick it off.
Not in my head. What?
Yeah, I saw you go like that. Very, very lightly.
I'm not understanding what you're saying, but okay. Their skills do need to be primarily physical damage, simply for the fact of you don't see a warrior kicking someone and being like, "Oh look, fire damage." I could definitely see a new damage type being implemented for warriors, because stuff like taunts could be considered like a psychological type of damage in a way. Maybe they've got like psychotes and feints and stuff that just mess with the enemy's head, and that wouldn't be technically physical. But in the end, I think the majority of it should be physical because a warrior is a physical class. They're hands-on.
Cool. Kodiak?
I just think that just like, warriors, because they're going to be strength and stamina based, and, rogues and rangers would be more agility, more precise precision type attacks that way all of their abilities should have to deal with strength, like giving them bonuses for the more strength that they have, the more damage they output, stuff like that.
Awesome. Let's get your take, Rezum.
Well, since it's physical, it's kind of nice because he has 0 chance of fizzling, which is a nice little niche thing that the warrior has at the Shadow Knight and the paladin don't. So he may not be able to steal life, he may not be able to buff his group members, but he has that 100% chance of getting his skills off every single time.
Cool. Dow?
Yeah, I have to agree with Alex and Rezum. It's, because it's a unique ability that the warrior does have. He doesn't have to worry about fizzling anything. And kind of going off a little bit with Nomad.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up. Yeah, go on in, Dow.
It should be completely skill based because you look at your magic classes. I don't think a warrior should have any type of magic, period, because he spent his life mastering weapons. That's what he is. That's what he's about. However, when it comes to your Dire Lords and your Crusaders, they're a completely different thing. But for the warrior himself, he's not necessarily a magic guy. He's more of training for all these different weapons. He's a battle guy. He's not sitting there studying books. He's studying the art of being a strategist and fighting the battle. So I have to say, physical, definitely, mostly. No spell casting crap. Now, however, if he gets like a spell scroll, perhaps, maybe, I don't know, like D&D, you could learn some magic and cast a scroll spell, but that's all it was, like a one-time use thing. So, but I'd say mostly physical, definitely.
Okay. Well, this is my take. Go on then, Kodiak, finish off.
No, I was just saying, because fizzle is no different than a miss.
Yeah.
When you're attacking, like, they're basically the same thing, but one's a weapon miss versus a misfire on a spell.
Okay, right, so I'm going to go into...
But I lose mana. Think about this. No, I'm worthless.
We lose.
Right, so I'm gonna add a twist in theorycraft a bit here, based off of non-VD Black's idea. And I'm gonna bring this into the discussion and then give my thoughts on this and what I have in mind. So he believes the warrior should be completely physical skill based. Having said that, he should be able to embodiment of physical possibility, being able to tap into almost magic or impossible things that other classes can't do. Having trained so diligently in his craft, going berserk and battle rage and earth-shattering slams that knock the enemies off their feet, or a tornado of death. That's what we should be seeing from the warrior. So my idea to top off of that and to agree, I obviously agree with Dow as well, and everybody else here from the stream, that it should be physical. But I do kind of like non-VD's idea of adding maybe something like a twist where the warrior can get so enraged and has an ability to basically slam his shield or his fists or his whole full body weight into the ground, that basically erupts an earth-shattering moment and knocks maybe back the monsters, kind of thing.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
I kind of think that's a pretty cool idea. Go on, Kodiak.
Well, when we got to the special lead, I was thinking the same thing. Like, instead of like the colored mana thing, maybe there's a rage thing for the warriors that gives them a special ability that they can use, just like the colored mana thing for the wizards. But I was going to talk about that later.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry, dude, but non-VD, I'll call you Nomad. All right, dude. So
Nomad Black. Come on, people.
We are basically now in the middle of our questions, and that means that Delincia is going to bring up the disclaimer.
Oh, disclaimer time, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we are speculating on our stream, and nothing we're talking about is actually being implemented into Pantheon. However, sometimes we do talk about that. But right now we're just theory crafting, stuff like that. The devs do pop in the show every once in a while and watch. So if you'd like to get your opinion or idea out there on the show, please come on board. We have Rezum here today as one of our special guests, and he's talking a little bit about what he thinks about a warrior. So you're more than welcome to come on, join, speculate, theory craft with us, and hey, let's all have fun and enjoy the idea that Pantheon's coming soon.
Awesome. Thanks for that. So what I'm going to do quickly right now as well is, as you guys may have seen, or if you missed it, the newsletter for September is out. We will be covering that on Tuesday. You said, Dal, right?
Yes, we'll be covering that on Tuesday.
So we'll
the newsletter.
We'll be covering
a little bit more in depth.
Newsletter. Yep, we're going to depth on it. So look forward to that. And now let's go back to the question: healing capabilities, if any. I remember in EverQuest 2 that the Guardian could kind of bandage himself, and he did get a special ability at level 35 in the I can't remember what that mini expansion adventure pack was called, with all the nolds, the den of something. But he got a special ability where he could, as a last resort, he could cast a spell where his life would come back to him, and if he did not destroy the enemy in the time given, I think it was a minute 30, he would basically explode and die. So it was either you defeat the enemy and you survive and don't drop dead, or you get, the time runs out, you haven't defeated the enemy and you explode and drop dead. So it's kind of something like that. Bandage, he had kind of, I think it was a basic skill, and I think EverQuest had something similar as well, didn't they?
Yes, every class was able to bandage themselves, depending on how many points they put into it, to actually get the effect. Monks usually are pretty good at it because they can actually heal themselves all the way to complete heal if they put all their points in it.
Do you guys think that any kind of capabilities for healing should be given to the warrior? I personally think it shouldn't.
I think that not in combat, no way. But out of combat, just like with the Band-Aid ability, let's say they had, like in Age of Conan, right? They have that rest, right? But put a longer cooldown on it, so that way they can heal back up at a quicker pace than just meditating.
Lex?
Well, to go on to the strategist side of things, I would like to see maybe something that lowers downtime of the group, not by a significant amount, but the difference between being out of commission and resting for two minutes versus 3 kind of thing. In combat, absolutely not, no way, because warriors always get the higher end of mitigation and defensive abilities for tanking and such, when they're tank spec at least, and that is the trade-off for having no heals. You are tougher, but there's nothing you can do to your own hit point pool, which is why warriors in most games, the pure warriors, were always the tanks chosen for boss fights on raids, because they had the highest amount of defenses, the best, not the highest, but the best avoidances in terms of parry, riposte, and all that other stuff. And that was the trade-off. And it worked very well, and it gave them a very good, very secure spot in a raid, in a group, everything.
Okay, cool. Rezum?
I don't really think the warrior should be able to heal. Healing makes me think of some powers, and powers mean mana. I do like the out-of-combat bandage feel, but as far as in combat, no, the warrior's the real deal. He's not puny like those hybrid tanks.
Sorry, Lex.
Ooh. Sorry, Ox. Sorry, Lex.
Lex, sorry, you just got slammed by a Rezum.
Dad, you got anything to add?
Don't worry. It's okay. It's okay. I'll remember that.
Anything to add?
Wait until we group in guild. Take it out then.
Blackpool.
I have to agree. I think a warrior shouldn't be able to heal. Like Sword Coast Legends was brought up by Nomad Black, which is, Second Wind was an ability where you could click it and have the chance of the warrior taking his stamina and converting it into a big kind of a heal on himself to save himself as a last minute. I don't think they should be able to heal because having my wife play a pocket cleric, she used to get very frustrated when she was using that mana and casting a giant spell of heal on the tank, and all of a sudden the tank, he flipped a switch and all of a sudden he's got health. She's like, what the heck just happened there? And it throws the cleric off in their game. So I believe out of combat, heal possibly on the side, but I like the bandage idea, like Rezum said, because a warrior, he's not a healer. He's a warrior, and he's going to get cuts and bruises, and he needs to know the basics maybe to patch himself up. But to ultimately heal himself, not a chance. He's not skilled in that art. So I have to say that I like the bandage out of combat idea.
Yeah, it's the bandage idea, how it used to work in, I think it was World of Warcraft, in EverQuest, is basically it was an item you would click and it would tick down for a few seconds and bandage you up. I would like to actually see you have downtime. Actually have to sit down and rest and bandage yourself. It doesn't matter if you're a warrior, a cleric. It doesn't matter what class you are. In that moment, if you have, if they open up the bandage possibility to, take care of your small wounds, it should be something with downtime where you have to sit down around a campfire, for instance, for a couple of minutes and take care of yourself. That gives you also downtime to talk a bit and recapitulate, strategize, think about where you're going next, etc. So I'm kind of on the idea for that. I definitely think if they do bandage, but it shouldn't be just you click it and it ticks down and then off you go and carry on. Go on, Cody.
I was gonna say, because what if they make bandaging actually mean something rather than just healing? Like there are some attacks that mobs might create that can only be healed or cured by bandaging, not a cure or a heal, but it actually something has to be bandaged.
It's something like let's say for instance you get cut by a poisonous dagger. So you basically see that you see that little spell at the top that you've been slashed with poison. You're gonna have to bandage that. You're gonna have to put some herbs on it and take care of
a bleed.
Yeah,
or a bleed or something.
Bleed
so
or
you
something
can
like
heal. You can heal the gone hit points, but the bleed's going to keep ticking away. Same with the poison. You can cure the poison, but until you bandage it, it's going to stick with you.
I definitely like that idea. I'm definitely on board for that. That actually adds a twist to it and brings in a new dynamic to the whole system as well. Makes it definitely interesting. Doesn't mean though that healers still can't heal and everything. They will be able to do everything that they can, but these are just little twists to add to the classes and the encounter itself. There wouldn't be major damage spells or injuries that would be life threatening, but it would be something you have to take care of before you get your endurance back and your vitality, etc.
A bleed or a bruise or something that requires some type of bandage rather than a heal or cure.
Yeah, I mean that's a good idea. It does put a different twist to it as far as like maybe you got like you said a poison dagger hit you or you got nicked by poison.
Because then that would also it would make people want to skill up in band-aids. You know what I'm saying? Rather than because who skilled up in band-aids? Monks and warriors. That was it. Everybody had the ability, but nobody did it unless they were a monk or a warrior.
Yeah. So yeah, kind of going on. I like to get back to is the possibility that a mob hits you. So you got some sort of bleed wound, but also it might be not always, the cleric can heal you, but you're slowly taking away like a dot. But also at the same time, you could also have some sort of effect that might affect your stamina, and your stamina is slowly ticking away. So it might not be your health, but it could also be your stamina that's being ticked away. And the cleric could possibly have a spell that'll actually cure that as well to stop that bleed or to stop that poison as well too. Because in D&D, that's what a cleric's abilities too is to cure disease, plagues. So if you can add plagues and disease into the game too, say you walk into a trigger, and here's kind of getting back to that perception system thing because I like the idea. You walk into the woods, you guys don't know, but you just walked across a stream that has a bunch of dead fish in it. Our poor Dire Lord Lex has just picked up some sort of disease from walking through that pool of dying fish. So now he's plagued. So throughout the game, and he don't have a cleric in the group. Say we got a paladin, but the paladin can't cure his plague, but a cleric can. So now he's got to get to the nearest town or contact a player in game and say, "Hey, cleric dude, could you heal me? I just picked up some plague back there walking through a pool of rotten fish." So now bam, he can heal Lexor. Now Lexor don't have that tick draining down on him anymore, and it's a slow tick. It's not like an instant bam, you're dead in 5 minutes, bro. Run back and get your corpse, dude. Sucks to be you. You walk through that bad thing of fish.
Well, yeah, that's how it was when you got cursed too. You had to go find a cleric to remove that curse from you. Otherwise you just walk around getting.
Finish off, Kodiak.
Oh no, I just say you just walk around with like some type of like a red sickness on your person until you got that cure, until you got that curse cured.
So what does Lex think about this idea?
Yeah, come on,
I like
Lex.
it. I like it as long as they take the time to do it right. I mean, don't make it something where it's like you've got to get your skill up to 100 plus before you can cure disease, but you can't cure poison until it's at 200. You know,
Yeah.
because then it's like all I'm doing is spamming the hell out of this every chance I get for very little return until the point that it's useful. And even then, by that time, I'm probably in the world with friends, and I rarely need it.
Awesome. Okay, so before I get Rezum's take on this, let's ask in chat, what do you guys think about this idea we've been talking about for the last couple of minutes with the bandage? And give us your thoughts, and while you're typing and catching up to the stream, Rezum, your take, mate. What do you think about this idea?
I really like it that the warrior can purify himself of some things but not others. Because, I mean, that's where the shaman and the druid really come handy, and the cleric with his resistances. That's what makes them unique in the game. So I say leave most of it to them, but if I can heal a bleed or something, because I may be out there soloing a quest that's 5 levels below me because I can do it, then hey, I'll use it.
Awesome. So we're getting some answers in from chat. Frogzor says yes on band-aids. Royal Wolf, bandage is 10 out of 10. So definitely some agreement on the idea of what we tossed around with the bandages. We'll see if anybody else brings anything up, and we'll carry on with the next question. So the next question is the warrior's armor, which basically means what kind of armor should the warrior be able to wear, and do you guys want to see something special to it? So I'll start off this time, so I get myself out of the way. I would like to see the warrior be a mix of plate armor and what's the other one? The next one, chain armor.
Chain.
So he can have a bit more flexibility depending on what kind of weapons he would be wielding. If he's going like with a staff and everything to give him more movement, etc. He could wear chain armor and mix and match. So he could wear the breastplate to keep his upper body safe, but his legs would be in chain armor to be able to move around a bit faster. So I'm kind of like looking for a mix. But when it comes to sword and shield or swords, it should be plate armor only. That's how I kind of see it.
See, I want to find out more about the Koldar steel. That seems to be super lightweight and be just as strong, unbreakable. That the dwarves are going to make. So, that could be kind of a good type of armor that they can make.
Okay. Yeah. Just real quick, just to address the Dark Soul Mag said there should be a limit on band-aids. They shouldn't be able to remove poison, disease, etc. Those kind of afflictions would need to be cured and treated. So I agree with that totally, 100%. And that's where I think we're all agreement on that. That's kind of the idea we're looking at. Okay, cool. As far as the armor, what a warrior could wear, I would say he should practically be able to wear anything. I mean, if he wants to wear a caster robe, but he don't get the caster abilities, but if he wants to run around town wearing a robe, hey, cool, no worries, bro. But strictly, I say chain, plate definitely, and leather he could too if he wants to be light on his feet, and maybe gives him a little bit of agility, a little bit of agility boost, but he'll have to take a hit somewhere else.
Yeah.
Should they need to mature into plate, like maybe chain up until level 30, and then they can access plate armor after that, just like you were talking about the sword and shield, and then dual wield at level 20?
That's actually interesting.
I would like to see them get plate before the Dire Lord and Paladin, since they're the MTs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think the warrior definitely needs to get that first over the other two. So sorry, Lex.
It's not a dress. It's a robe. Royal Earwolf.
it's a dress, bro. It's a dress.
Get it right.
It's a dress.
Battle skirt.
So Lex, your take, armor wise?
I'm a big fan of plate armor. I love the look of it. It just makes me feel beefy as a tank. It's great. But the problem with plate armor is that it always looks freaking same. Add a little bit of chain to it. Maybe there's a chain set that's for warriors that you can help just to add a little bit of layering, some texture, flavor, something to warriors, because we just don't look like a can. You know?
Yeah, I think, but that would be more of like the racial crafting type.
Well,
we were talking about before,
you
giving-
could. I mean, there's absolutely room in there for that, but like don't make it so that chainmail is not viable. Like you can put stats on it that are for a warrior, and then a shaman's not going to want to go strength and stamina. I mean, yeah, technically you could put it on if you're having trouble staying alive or you want to solo or whatnot, but the grand scheme of things, it's not going to be as useful to a shaman as it would a warrior. So I can still put on like the chain pants. I've got plate boots, I got chain pants, I got a breastplate, maybe I got chain arms. So now I look a little different. You know, I'm not just looking like a can of Campbell's soup. You know,
You actually you look like a can of mashed up soup.
There you go. Only on a good day.
Or the can of soup that got dropped off the shelf by a few customers.
So
yeah, because we don't want every warrior looking the same. I totally agree with that.
Right,
It's
yeah.
like you want to have each. But that's what I said. I think that's where the racial flair might come into it. So
That's
an
true.
ogre warrior was going to look different from a dwarf warrior with some of that. Was it
Right.
Cultural,
Yeah.
racial differences.
cultural? Yeah, cultural. Maybe something they have a cultural armor where they can go and change the tent, change the look, or change the whatever to make it look more dwarven, make it look more ogreish. You know.
So let's let Cody, let's let Lexa finish off his thought process here for a minute.
Sorry, Lex.
You can add a lot of variety here. I mean, yes, you could do the cultural thing too and extend it even deeper. But let's just say everyone's a human, okay? Just for sake of argument. To make things a little different, you could even make not a lot, but some leather pieces that are acceptable. Maybe even, something that's a leather set that's designed for warriors. A lot of strength, a lot of stamina. Maybe even bonus hit points or whatnot.
Yeah.
But that gives me the option not just to choose from this a respectable, but still, all in all, short list of gear, to this massive list of gear that is all perfectly statistically acceptable for me to wear as my class. But now I've got my own little variety that I can add.
Okay. Rezum?
Well, for me, it all kind of depends on the game design. And what I mean by that is you would think that heavier pieces of armor make you attack slower. Lighter pieces of armor allow you to attack quicker. So with that being said, for me, it's going to be situationally based. If I'm going up against mobs that are 2 levels higher than me, I might go plate. But if I want to go a leather or even a cloth so I can get the increased attack speed, I might do that as a warrior.
Okay. So we have a
That's
second.
a good idea.
We have a second. We have a second speculation show going on in chat actually. Talking about the different kinds of armor and what classes could wear them. Interesting. So let's go and move on now to the final question. And this is going to be actually really interesting because I haven't really had any real thought towards this. What could be the warrior's speciality? That's a hard one. I haven't really had any time to really think about that. So does anybody
Lex looks like he's ready.
Yep.
Yeah, here's what you
He's
can
nodding
do.
his head for sure.
Yep, and he's rubbed his hands together.
Because the warrior is a martial specialty class, we'll say, or physical specialty class, we do actually have a lot more room to play with than one person might normally think. Tanking. You've got a speciality right there of tanking. Well, that tanking also branch off. Maybe you've got dual wield tanking. Maybe you've got two-hand tanking. Maybe you've got sword and board tanking, And those can all be different. You could add more parrying to dual wielding because you've got 2 blades to parry. Maybe the style of fighting with a two-hand weapon means you have to riposte a lot. So maybe you get a boost to that, where blocking gives you block. And then you've got almost the same mirror on the DPS side of things. You could maybe, it's going to be rough, but I mean, you could technically do a DPS spec with sword and board. I've seen it done before, and it works. It's just not the easiest. It would be considered more of a survivability DPS spec. But then you've got your DPS specs for your two-hand, your dual wield. Who knows?
So
there's lots of room.
We have a few ideas to help us think about this from chat, actually. So Foxor says taunts. Coach says defensive disciplines. Ox is weapons master for bonus. Apophis is for rescue, intercept, to protect people who get aggro. So those are some ideas maybe to help us bring this along. Go on, Cody. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking the same thing, like, because right where you said something about mastering all the different weapon skills or whatever. So once you've mastered, let's say 3, let's say you've maxed out sword, blunt, and two-handed blunt or whatever, right? You get a bonus when you max out that 4th weapon. Now you get a little bit more bonus, and so on and so forth. And you can get a little bonus like that through weapons skills, through weapon mastering. Just like how a wizard would get specialized, evocation or specialization as far as for doing extra damage. Why couldn't they get more damage output for being maxed out in that skill level of that weapon?
All right, cool. Dan, you got something to add now, or?
I'm kind of still mulling that one over my head. So if you want to pass down the Rezum.
Yeah, let's pass on to the warrior specialist. Go on, Rezum. Blow our
I
minds.
really like the idea of weapon speciality, but I think you should go into one direction. Like if you want to go maces, you go hardcore maces. If you want to go sword, you go hardcore sword. And it will give you more passive abilities with that weapon. Like if I'm using a mace, passively I do more damage to a heavy armored mob. Or passively, 5% chance of knockdown or knockback. Or possibly with the sword, you would have more chance of critical hits. So you would want to pick a direction of a weapon you'd want to use, rather than mastering all weapons. Because you would think that deep into your training, you would say, hey, I'm most efficient with this weapon. This is what I want to be using for the rest of my life. You cuddle it like your baby.
That kind of, like with Delencia, what you were talking about, like with crafting, it's at that there'll become a point where you do have to pick a specialization of this is the weapon that I'm going to use. It's a two-handed weapon. I'm going to be a master of this two-handed weapon. I'm good at everything else, but this is what I specialize in.
Yep.
And I think this gives a player too the opportunity to kind of mess around with all the weapon types, and then they can figure out, hey, I really play well with this style of weapon. So they like the mechanic of that weapon in game, so then they can actually master in that. So I agree completely. I think that's a good idea. Once you come to a point, then you can master it.
Yeah, if I can jump in for just a
Go
second.
ahead.
The only problem I have, not really a problem, I say more of a concern. They've already stated that weapon types and weapon damage types are going to be more or less effective on different types of mobs. For example, piercing and slashing won't do as much to a skeleton, whereas a blunt would just shatter a little bugger. Technically, locking yourself into a weapon type may, not saying it is, but it may set you up for an awful lot of frustration down the road.
Yeah. I can
But
see
isn't that where group strategy plays the biggest role in Pantheon?
Yes, true.
You got
It
to
is
figure
true.
out everybody's
That is
strong
true.
points, and
But
you
Or,
want to
or
go.
you or you got to find the amulet that turns your slashing into a blunt.
Right.
Damage.
I'm just
The Amulet of Awesomeness.
that was
Epic Quest.
I mean,
But I do
I'm-
see your
I'm
point,
a
Lex.
lazy
It's a
tank.
very good point.
I mean, I'm a lazy tank. I'm not going to lie, but I'm a lazy tank. I'm not going to change my weapon. If I like how my sword looks, I'm not replacing it because I like how it looks.
Well, see, and that's where I think that's why I'm kind of trying to go with the basic idea that the player will have the ability to master a weapon, and get the feel of the style, and that's what they're happy with. Chances are that you get different types of bonuses to these weapons that you might not, and you might find that awesome sword of cool, ultimately power, the Sword of 1,000 Truths that deals damage to every type of structure. You never know. There might be an epic weapon that gives you the power to hit skeletons, hit dragons, hit ogres, whatever it is. So there's a chance that maybe a weapon type like that will give you a proc, even procking weapons too.
Kodiak, can I just quickly butt in before you
Go ahead.
go? Because I haven't had my take on this yet. Because I had an idea now, and we talked about this earlier on. So, kind of getting back onto Nomad's idea of giving him the ability to shake the earth and everything, with the ability to add, a rage twist to the warrior. So basically, he can gather rage, and with that rage, he can use certain abilities, like a blowback or a special block and stuff like that. I'm kind of liking to go into that direction, adding a rage system towards the warrior. That basically, once he reaches that rage point, his special ability would be to, use a special blow that would blow the monsters out of proportion for a short period of time, or stun them, or something like that.
I like that idea, and believe it or not, I can't believe I'm going to drop this. WoW did that with their warrior, but with Pantheon, you got to think of so much downtime in between fights. It's hard to keep your rage meter up.
Now, what I was going to go back to what you guys were talking about, instead of doing weapon specializations, and maybe do sword and board, two-handed, and dual wield specializations.
Yeah,
That way you can interchange. You can interchange mace, sword, all that stuff, and then make those passive, and then that solves both those issues. As far as the rage meter thing goes, I think that's a good idea. It kind of comes into the whole colored mana thing, right? So if a wizard can do damage or whatever and then build up this colored mana and then give him some type of a special ability, then why can't a warrior do the same thing? Like you're fighting, and then after you get whatever, you get some type of awesome ability to use. And maybe it's a save, like it's an oh shit, type thing. But and maybe it's not an actual like action. It's a
Kodiak, you made me think of something. So damn you, first off.
Oh.
Secondly,
Flagpole.
What in the world would a warrior get use out of the mana system, like the mana climate system?
Yep.
We'll call it the rage.
The mana climate system is magic. Warriors have no magic, so how could they benefit?
Exactly. That's how they could. That's why the idea of the rage system came into play with my head, because the climate system or the mana system isn't something technically he could tap into. So because he's left out of that, he has the ability to, gather up all this rage, and everybody else can tap into the physical part of that aspect. Kind of.
You actually brought up a pretty good point there, and that's a good idea, because technically, the mana climate systems don't do anything for a warrior. So what you could do is maybe, or monks. So what you could do with your classes like that, or rogues, is you could use that to be some sort of special, enrage, or maybe an earth-shattering kaboom, which knocks mobs down, whatever. So it gives them that power, that ability, maybe within a zone. So that's how they could kind of incorporate the melee classes into the mana climate system without making people feel like, well, gee, man, I have to be a caster to tap into that cool thing, So, I could see that. That's kind of a cool idea,
And it would be cool also because if every zone has a different colored mana, right? Depending on what color that you have accumulating, may give you a different ability.
Kind of where I was trying to go with that.
Those relics, you can change them out to fit your style of gameplay. Yeah,
that's kind of where I was heading with this. There's some of the ideas in there. Maybe Foxer says maybe if they have a magic weapons, the weapon can benefit. And Oxilian says, wait, what about the climate effects on the warrior, etc. So let's go and tap into those two ideas. Anyone?
What were the two ideas? Sorry,
I don't agree with the weapon one, because if my sword can tap into the mana climate, why can't a mage's staff? And the mana climate is supposed to affect players, at least how I think of it. I was actually thinking of the idea of maybe mana climate affects a warrior's resistances. Because he's surrounded by it, he becomes more accustomed to it. So if it's like the red mana climate, in abundance, all of a sudden, maybe he's just not a lot, mind you, just a little more heat resistant. So because he's just used to it or something. I mean, this is one of the things where I'm sitting there going, I'm a developer, and I'm going, oh my God, what are we going to do?
Rezum, your thoughts?
I thought that was a real cool idea about getting more resistance in the climate you're in. Because one thing I liked about EQ and EQA was going around and collecting a variety of armor so I could have resistances to everything I was fighting. Otherwise, I was going to wipe as a tank. So I think that's a real nice idea. It's a cool niche that if only the warrior could get it, then that's just something that would balance the characters very evenly. It'd be nice.
Yeah, so the longer they fight in that environment, the higher their resists go. Basically what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. That's a good idea.
So Jimothy brings in as well something. He says different coloured mana climax could relate to different type of stat bonuses for pure melee classes or characters. Also,
Yeah, I mean-
an interesting thought, definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
definitely.
of it more of like a gym rather than a climate per se, because they're talking about you can change out a red stone for a white stone or for this stone. You know what I'm saying? And each one of those is going to have a different effect on your character. You know, that's how I look at it.
So that's the final question. Do you guys have anything to add towards the warrior?
What do you guys want the warrior's armor to look like visually? Because I know you said the Shadow Knights, I know you said the Paladins, but what do you want the warriors to look like? It's looked pretty generic over the years, so I'm just curious.
I want them to look battle worn and beaten.
Yeah.
Like like I have seen some shit kind of thing. You know, that's how I want a warrior to look like he's been in the thick of it.
Yeah. I'm kind of on the same with Alexa there.
A dented helmet.
Yeah, make it look, a bit battle worn.
Dented, scratched, scuffed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you think about MMOs, every time you get that new piece of armor, it's always pristine and shiny, like you've never fought anybody. It's like a Crest commercial, you know.
He introduced him. Thump I am, as he has a dent in his helmet.
Yes, because you know everybody when you see that Crest commercial, you're like, come on, BS, man. I got tartar, I got plaque build up between those teeth.
I don't mind the possibility of getting a piece of armor that looks shiny for you to walk about and present yourself, but generally it should look all banged up and know that you.
So like
that
the
this
more
guy's-
durability it loses, the more damage it looks like it's taken till you get it repaired and it's pristine again.
Oh gosh, that'd be crazy to sit there and try to craft suits armor to look like that. But no, I say certain suits could look brand new and clean, but then also you have suits of armor that are all kind of beat up looking. But that beat up armor is actually probably a good stat wearing armor. So hey, I don't mind looking like I'm a crushed can of soup, walking around.
Dark Soul says it actually pretty right. You want the warrior to look and have the aura of this is the guy you have to get past to get to the healer. Exactly right. Spot on.
Right,
That's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, you take a Crusader, a Warrior, and a Dire Lord, all the same race, right? Even the same character models. You set them next to each other. You want to be like, this guy is a guy I can count on. He's like a saint. You look at the other guys, this guy is mean and nasty. I don't even want to be near him. And the next one would be like, that's one tough SOB.
Yeah.
That's how it should be.
Cool. So, before we go into the closing thoughts and everything, guys, we're going to bring up something that we posted out and mentioned, I think it was Tuesday. I'm going to bring it up now on the screen. As you guys know, we would love to give back to the community for the awesome show of support. And we've set it up that we can, or will be giving away further pledges. And we're going to be starting off with the Watchers pledges. That's the lowest tier pledge. The $50 pledge, and to actually achieve that, to unlock it, yes, there's a stipulation to it. You have to help us get to 50 viewers a show to unlock our giveaways. So tell your friends and family, tweet it out, Facebook it, Anook it, whatever, Reddit, pass it on. Get people onto our show. Once we reach 50 viewers and they watch the show and it's constant, we will unlock giveaways, and it's not going to be something major that's going to last a couple of months or whatever before we do it. It's going to be pretty close to the show. So let's say, for instance, on this Thursday we would open up the giveaway. By next Tuesday, basically, we would announce the winner. So it's basically going to take about 3-4 days for us to decide who the winner is. There will be small stipulations, of course. We'll think about some cool things for you guys to do that isn't too hard and time-consuming. So spread the word, guys. Let them know, and get us the 50 viewers so we can give back to the community for the support you've given us, and help VR further along. Because there are some people out there that might not have pledged yet, don't know about the game, still on the sideboards looking at it. This is the chance to get them in.
Yep. definitely. There's a chance to get them in the game. Some of them are still like you're sitting on the fence and not sure. Yeah. So hop on board, get your friends. At least watch the show. You never know; they may like it. I think it's a pretty cool show, right?
And if I remember correctly, the game is most likely, because we don't know exactly how they're going to roll it out, if it's going to be a download for free and then play to level 10 for free, or if it's going to just be you buy it and then play, and then after 10 you sub. We don't know. But let's assume we have to buy the game. Digital copies are usually $49.99. Some are $59.99, depending on what the people roll them out as. This $50 pledge here, you can look at it two ways. You're either paying exactly what you're going to end up paying for the game anyway, plus you're going to get a couple little bonus things, or you're going to be paying less than what the game is going to be rolled out for, plus you get some goodies. You really can't lose.
Yep, true. Can't lose.
Yep. So, closing statements, guys, and we'll start with Kodiak.
All right. I mean, I love the traditional warrior. I think that they could make some really cool twists, specializations, tap into the mana Kaiman or the rage meter like we discussed. Yeah, just protect me.
Keep you safe.
Rezum.
I'm real interested in seeing how they are going to mold an old favorite into a new glorious game. It's going to be real interesting. Hopefully they can keep up with what EverQuest did with it and go opposite directions of what current games have been doing.
Cool. Lex?
Well, this is also to address what Royal said in Shadow. If Warrior turns out better than Crusader, then he might swap. I have a strong suspicion, because I did play a Warrior for a very long time before I went to a Shadow Knight. I've played almost every freaking tank there is under the sun. What we're going to see with a Warrior is probably much more in terms of raw defensive power, less utility, but it's going to be bound primarily by the player's skill, meaning a very, very skilled player is going to do remarkably well. But if you're new to the class or new to tanking, you're probably going to have a little bit of rough start until you get into the swing of things. But with this whole tactician, strategist side of things, I'm really interested to see how that actually shapes up into the class, because there's potential for quite an awful lot, and I would love to get more information.
Cool. Dow?
I think this is going to be an awesome game. I keep telling everybody, use Vanguard, use EverQuest kind of as your references, because that's where Brad and his creative style and his team kind of gravitate towards. But they also want to put a twist on things too. So I think this is going to be a great game. It's going to change. It's a game changer. I believe it will be. That's no hype. I look at the outside the box approach to what they're trying to do, what they're trying to bring you as the player, and bringing a lot of classic ideas into a modern MMO will be a game changer. And regardless of what a lot of the naysayers say, it will be awesome. And the Warrior, I like the classic style of the Warrior. I think there could be some cool twists, some new modern things to it, and make it a fun and playable class for those who like the Warrior. I'm not a Warrior myself. I always like the Summoner or a Mage. But the Warriors, I think there's an awesome idea here, or ability to make them kind of cool and fun to play. Because when I tried a Warrior personally, I found them kind of dull and boring. You know, they just go up, taunt the mob, hack. I was like, man, I don't know how people can play these guys. But it takes a special kind of person to sit there and do that. So kudos to those players who do that. I really appreciate those people who used to put the time and commitment as being Warriors, because I couldn't do it. I got too bored with it. Mm-hmm. So
cool.
But yeah, that's what I think it's going to happen. So good luck to you, Warriors. Hope they bring something really cool and awesome. And I think 90% sure they'll bring you something awesome.
Yep. So thanks for joining us, Rezum. Definitely, we'd love having you here today. Quickly to bring it up, because it was brought up in chat now. Speaking of drinks, what happened to Lex's shots? Any shots needed?
Oh, yes, actually there is. We did have an order. We did get an order. Yep. So Lex is gonna have to do that.
So while Lex
Yep,
is getting
I
ready, Rezum, thanks for joining us today. And everybody out there, don't forget to tell your friends, family, tweet it out that, you know, as soon as we reach 50 viewers,
Just
we will
one?
unlock the
Yeah, just one, bro.
the giveaway. And thanks for your continued support, guys. And while we watch Lexa drown that shot, that's a big one. Join us next Tuesday, where Dal's already mentioned we will be covering the newsletter for starters. Yeah, we hope you enjoyed the show today.
Yes.
And see us next Tuesday for Tavern Talk, and next Thursday for Speculation. Maybe Rezum will join us again. We don't know. We'll have to see. And with that, guys, good night.
Have a good night,
Appreciate
guys.
it, guys.
Thanks for joining us and thanks for your support. Appreciate it.
Bye.